Okay, Bob Donham. I was born in Hobbs, New Mexico, December the 28th in 1935. And the reason that we were in Hobbs, New Mexico, it was during the oil boom, and my dad and some of his brothers and cousins went to find work. And it was a boom town. It was a wild, kind of like the Wild West, is a story I was told. And when I was born, the hospital was completely full, and I was born in a tent. The doctor came out and delivered me in a tent. And but it was nice. My mother said that had a wooden floor. It had a big stove, and it was real comfortable. So it was kind of like the old West. And we were there not a whole long time because I think shortly after that they came back. Came back to Texas.
Very good.
And I'm Reba McNally. I was born February 1st, 1938, Walnut Springs, Texas, and I was born at home. So we upgraded from a tent to a house. So, and we moved all over this blessed state, out of town, out of state, some like to Mexico, and I think they even lived in Shreveport at one time.
Yeah, the first year I went to school was in Durant, Oklahoma. So that's right. My dad was in construction, heavy equipment. He could operate anything, any piece of heavy equipment. And wherever he went, Mom and my two sisters and I went too. And we went to a lot of schools, sometimes as many as 3 schools in 1 year. So it's kind of surprised me we got any kind of education, but we did.
But you did learn how to make friends fast. You hit the road running and you made friends before you got out of there because you knew it was going to be a short period of time. So that helped in our later life with being flexible. He took us to town one day and bought Bobby and Betty and myself and Billy a pair of boots. Since we're living on the farm, we needed boots. Well, we thought this meant that we could walk in the mud with these boots. So sure enough, we took off all with our new boots, walked down in the field, and we're walking in between the rows and mud up to the top of the boots almost. And Daddy saw us, and we saw him coming down the road, and he taking his belt off.
Uh-oh.
And so we started running, and my cousin Billy, he was about 4 at the time, and he's running and he's saying, Uncle Jelly's not going to hit me. Uncle Jelly won't hit me. He won't hit me. And man, he popped his legs as he went by. All of us got a big pop. We had to take our boots off and cleaned them and then put saddle soap on them. They were very, very unhappy with us with our new boots that we broke in with mud. Started.
Uncle Bobby, what's your favorite childhood memory?
Child memory, I guess Christmas, we used to always have a big Christmas. Either we had a lot of family. Either my dad's family would come, my granddad, and always had plenty of food. We always had a nice Christmas, and we all believed in Santa Claus up till we saw Mom and Dad unloading the toys one time.
That's when Bobby started high school, when he stopped believing.
Who?
You.
But anyway, we had a loving family. It was good. It was a good childhood. Yeah.
Mom, what's
Yeah.
your favorite childhood memory?
I guess every summer, instead of taking a vacation, our vacation, we had a big family reunion from Daddy's side of the family. We'd all meet in Cisco, and all kinds of activities. We'd be there, I guess, 3 or 4 days, and all of Daddy's brothers and sisters and all our cousins, and that was a highlight of our summers, getting to see all the cousins at the reunion.
Uncle Bobby, what do you think was one of the most impactful things throughout your life that really like shaped who you are or changed something about your belief system?
Well, I'll say this, Kim, that Mother and Dad and Betty and Reba and I went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday. That was one thing. We was raised in a Christian home, and we all became Christians, and I think that's one of the most important things that I can look back on now. The bringing up that we had helped mold our lives.
And another thing too, Mother and Daddy, even though we did not have a lot of money, they always had a lot of friends that they invited over. There was always company. Mother and Dad, I can remember at an early age when Monopoly first came out, and they bought a Monopoly set. And they would have friends over, and Mother would, fix dinner, maybe like sandwiches and soup or whatever. But as kids, were always included in their activities. And they were a very loving family, and had lots of friends, and we did things as a family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mom, tell us about nursing school.
Well, I went to Methodist nursing school, and we went straight through the summer, so I had 2.5 years. At the time, they had the draft, and my fiance was drafted, and he spent 6 months in basic training, and he kept calling and saying, okay, I'm going to be sent to Europe. I know everybody's been sent to Germany, We could have an 18-month honeymoon, if you decided to go with me, So it put a lot of pressure on me, and I quit school, like 6 months. Needed OB-GYN and emergency room. Quit school so that we could have an 18-month honeymoon in Germany. Got married. We ended up in Fort Benning, Georgia, the armpit of the world, for 18 months. Crushed my parents. So after we got married, I never worked while the kids were young. I went through my divorce. I tried to get my grades transferred back. I was going to try to finish getting my nursing degree. In the meantime, it had been so many years that Methodist had combined with TWU, and it was a 4-year program, and they had moved to Denton. And and they did not have the transcripts of the Methodist group, so I was not able to get my degree. But in those days, I went to work in a doctor's office. I just couldn't work in a hospital because of that. But I went to work, and I worked 36 years in different doctor's offices. The last 18 years that I worked for an allergist, internal medicine doctor, and it was great. I mean, it was a good life.
Mom?
My favorite was we had a bay house, and during the summer, the day after school was out, the kids and I would move down, stay all summer. So I got to have all summer, and I love the water. So we got to do a lot. I mean, every day we'd do something, where there's not just go down to the water and go crabbing or fishing or, whatever. So that was favorites. And then we had a deer lease also, and I'd take would take the family, and I'd take the two girls with me into the deer blind, and they're, like 5 and 6 years old, or, young. And we'd just put them in their sleeping bag with their pajamas on, and they'd be sleeping until the sun would start coming out. And at an early age, they learned, not to make noise. They'd stand up and look out and watch the sun come up and start seeing the deer. So, that was a fun thing, getting to take the kids hunting
And what's the story about when the gun went off?
okay, so Kim and Kelly, so I could hear the Jeep coming to pick us up, and I was unloading my gun, and so I had it, pointed down, and when I injected a bullet, and one of them went off, and it shot through the bottom of the blind, and as soon as Stan pulled up, and Kim jumped up, and she said, "Daddy, Mama shot, and it went in this ear, and it came out this one." So I've got 7 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. So when James married Lisa, she had a daughter that was 15. So she was the first grandchild. And then Kim had Tyler. Kelly has 3 children. And James and Lisa have 2. And then Melissa has 2 boys. And Tyler and Kelsey have a little boy, Ridge, who is my favorite at the time. We have bonded. It's fun, but I thoroughly, just can't describe the feeling that you have with grandkids. I mean, the love is just, I didn't think I could love, and not that I love them more than my kids, but it's just a different feeling. It's hard to describe. And I have a good relationship, especially with Tyler, with my oldest grandson. He and I bonded, and he stayed with me for a while. He lived with me for a while, so it's very special with all of them. So my favorite, or one of my favorite Carolyn stories, is that we had a deer lease at Madisonville, and it was on a pond. And so Bobby and Carolyn came up for the weekend, and the boys had gone, the guys had gone out frog gigging. And so we put the kids to bed, and Carolyn and I were sitting waiting for them to come back, and we're drinking rum and Coke. So we're about half drunk, and Bobby and Stan came in, and they had a boat full of all these big old bullfrogs. And they said, "Okay, since y'all are still up, y'all need to clean them. And you need to make sure you pull that leader out of their legs." So Carolyn and I, and the bullfrogs are about, 2 foot long, big bullfrogs. So we started cleaning them, and we started doing a puppet show. So we're standing over there, we're laughing, and we're having our bullfrogs do this dance. And we're laughing, and Bobby and Stan are yelling, "Would y'all shut up in there so we can go to sleep?" The more they would yell, the funnier we thought it was, and the more fun we started having. Anyways, we forgot to pull the leader out of the legs, cut the legs off. So the next day they're going to fry up a batch of frog legs, and they put them in the skillet, and they start popping up, out of the skillet. And Carolyn and I are so hungover, we didn't think it was so funny. Anyway, always had fun with Carolyn. Oh my God. And then when after Carolyn was diagnosed with cancer, and she and I tried to spend as much time as we could. Carolyn always loved to travel. She's always ready for a trip. And anyway, we'd just, if nothing else, we'd just ride down to Galveston and talk. We'd hear the same stories, tell the same tales, drive down, we'd ride the ferry across to eat lunch and come back. never got boring. Just, always good. We went to Avery Island where they make Tabasco sauce. Went with my friends George and Bobby. We took Carolyn. We went to the George Bush Library one weekend. Used to go to the Bluebonnet Festival. Just any kind of road trip. I mean, Carolyn's got her bag packed. She's ready to go. Yeah.
You got another hunting story, Mama?
Yeah, when I got my first deer, because the first year I went hunting, I didn't want to kill anything. And so they would put me in a deer blind. There were like 3 lined up in this clearing, and I was always in the center. And I wouldn't even load my gun. I thought, hell, I'm not going to kill these little babies. So I just sat up there. I just enjoyed the outdoors. And so when we'd go to the camp house and they'd say, Reba, I saw a deer that was young, pretty close to your blind, everything. Did you see it? I said, well, I must have been looking the other way. I didn't see it. So anyway, I pretty much lied that first year about, hunting. And so the next year, Stan said, were you really trying? Did you try? So I said, no. I said, I just, well, I'm not going to pay for you to go if you're not going to hunt. Well, I didn't want to be left at home. So I said, okay. I said, I'll hunt this year. So he said, okay, so I'm going to put you on a blind close to me. And we're right up against a fence to the next deer lease. And so anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm looking around, and I looked over in the other guy's pasture, and here comes this big buck, and he's walking real slow. He's grazing. And so I'm thinking, well, Stan's going to shoot him because he was closer to his blind. So he got almost up to the fence. I thought, man, when he hits that fence, he's gone. I'm not going to be able to see him. So I sighted him in, and I did a perfect shot right through the neck. Man, he goes down. So I lay there, sat there for a minute. Sure enough, he didn't get up. And so I got my knife and walked down to it, and walked under Stan's blind. And I said, are you going to come help me field dress him? No, you shot him, you kill him. You can't clean him. I said, well, I don't know how to clean him. Well, you learn. You're the one that shot him. So I thought, okay. So man, I butchered him up, but I got over there and I field dressed him. So when we got back to the camp house, in fact, that year, it was the biggest buck that was shot all year. So I got the Muy Grande. Anyway, so when we got back to the camp house, and Stan said, well, that was my deer. It was right under my blind, and she shot it out from under. Loser.
How about, I heard a story about you shooting a deer on the run.
Yeah, that was in Del Rio. Yeah, I was sitting there watching. It was early morning, and 2 does came out, and they were grazing. Now, I always heard that the buck will stay back and let the does go out, but when they come out, they're going to come out running. So I had my gun up, and I'm waiting. I'm thinking he's going to do that. So sure enough, they graze, and they're a little bit down in this little gully. And here he came, and he's on the run, but I had my gun at the perfect place, and I got him.
And sure it wasn't Rock Springs?
Yeah, it was Rock Springs. Yeah. Daddy we had moved to Richmond. We'd still been going to church in Stafford. So Sunday morning, Daddy and I would go to church, and he'd let me drive, and I'm 15. The only thing, I hated shift gears. I hated push the clutch in. So we'd come to a stop sign, and Daddy'd say, okay, stop. Well, I'd slow down, I'd look 4 ways, and then I'd take off. You didn't stop. I said, yeah, I did stop. Well, to me, it's my definition. I was stopping because I'm slowing down enough. So anyway, this goes on, and I always get into an argument. You did not stop. I told you to stop. You didn't come to a full stop. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to let you drive again. So Mother was with us one Sunday. She's in the back seat. And so we go through this ritual at the stop sign. Daddy, you did not stop. Yes, I did. She said, all right, Reba, what is your definition of stopping? And I said, that was it. I slowed down. Nothing's coming. I'm looking forward, and I take off. Dad's, all right, Elmer, what's yours? Well, she needs to come to a complete stop, shift gears, and then go. And she said, well, that's where y'all's problem is. Both of you have your own idea of stopping. And so Daddy said, okay, if you don't start stopping, shifting gears, then, you're not going to get to drive. So Bobby had an old Ford that he had taken to have it serviced one day at friends of ours had a service station in Stafford. Betty's pregnant. She's about 7 or 8 months pregnant. I mean, she's big pregnant. So we wanted to go out to, Carlos was working at a sand pit, and they had an automatic car, and we were wanting to go somewhere. So she said, okay, we'll go out to the sand pit and get our car. So we called the station and told them, would you bring Bobby's car back, to Betty's house, Well, we're not through with it yet. Well, that's all right, we'll bring it back. So they brought the car to the house, and we started down and I'm driving, and Betty's sitting there, big stomach, and we're turning on this road, and again, I didn't want to have to shift gears, so I just slowed down, and I made this turn, and I lost control, so I'm going all over the road, and there's drainage ditches on each side, and a bunch of kids were playing in the drainage ditch, and they scattered. I mean, they looked like, and Betty starts laughing, and I had to stop because we're laughing so hard how these kids, fools. And so when we got out to where Carlos was, and Betty's telling him, well, Reba made that turn and she didn't slow down enough, and we're gonna, oh my God, he had a fit. He left the job, he took Betty back home, chewed my butt out for lying about Bobby's car, took it back to the station and left it, and we were grounded. Took all the cars away from us.
And Carlos was Betty's husband, Ted's daddy.
Right.
So what's your favorite memory of you and Aunt Betty?
Betty and I used to do a lot together. When I'd go on trips, I'd always invite her. And we were going down to the bay. We were going to spend the weekend. It was a girls' weekend. My friend Autumn and Betty and I, we had the kids. And it was one of the first bouncy houses that we've ever seen. And there's a skating rink. It's like a miniature golf course and everything. So anyway, we stopped, and she and Autumn and I and the kids went in this bounce house. And so Betty, at her age, was always having to go to the bathroom. And so my friend Autumn had really skinny legs, and she would jump up real high. She'd bend her legs, and she looked like a chicken. And so we're laughing, and Betty starts laughing so hard, and she lost control of her bladder, and she pees all over the house. Well, other people are getting out because when they're bouncing, it's coming to them. And so we finally, when we got out, all of us are covered, and the man had to close it down and come in with the water.
And how old were y'all?
We're grown women. We've got kids. I had 3 kids. Her kid was in the Navy. We're not. We're old women. That was a fun time.
So you two have gotten really close over the last few years, and I know that y'all have done some trips together. Y'all went to Hawaii together. Y'all
Went
go,
to
Alaska.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's y'all's favorite memories together?
Well, the trips would have to be way up there at the top.
Yeah,
They
probably
were-
Hawaii.
Yeah,
That was a good trip.
that was a good
Yeah.
trip, but both of them were. So while we're on the Alaskan trip, and we took a side trip, we took a train, and when we're coming back on the bus, and of course we had name tags on, And so we stopped at this old mining camp, and they had it, set up with the saloon girls and everything. So we're getting off of the bus, and all the saloon girls jumped on the bus, and they're yelling, "Bobby, where have you been? Where have you been? We've missed you." That was fun, yeah.
Oh yeah, you had some explaining to do?
Yeah. That my mother would cook.
And
Yeah.
what did y'all call those biscuits?
Cat head, because they're big, like a cat head.
Like a what?
Cat head, CAT head. So we were going to the family reunion one year, and that was Mother's favorite part of the trip, is getting to cook breakfast out on a campfire. So Bobby was dating this girl named Barbara, and when he told her that, this is Mother's, part of the trip, and, we're going to stop and cook breakfast. And she said, "Well, I'm not getting out eating side the road." So we stopped in Killeen, and it's on the side of a bridge, and it was a park, a roadside park. And so we're halfway down the bank, and Mother's cooking bacon and coffee, and oh God, it smells good. And so Barbara was sitting in the car. So Bobby went and fixed her plate and took it back up, and she ate in there, and Mother got to do her cooking and everything. So we're cleaning up, and there's a bunch of soldiers that are coming along. This is like early morning, and probably been out all night drunk. And when they got to the bridge, they started throwing beer bottles down the side of the bank, and one of them, Barbara, had finally decided to get out, and she was walking down to the campfire. Do you remember that? And they started throwing beer bottles, and one broke right at her feet, and she let out a yell and ran back to the car. Wasn't long after that, I don't know if that contributed, but she and Bobby broke up. I don't think she liked the country life.
And how you spending your days?
Well, of course, we had the pandemic. That changed a lot of things. Before that, I was going to an exercise class 3 times a week, a yoga class, and then a cardio class. So that all came to a screeching halt. So I do oil paintings, and my niece opened up a boutique next to her. She's a massage therapist. And she said, "If you want to paint some, small paintings, and we'll sell them here at the boutique." So I set up everything in my breakfast room and did a lot of paintings. Did very well at the boutique. I got a lot of commissions, more than the little paintings, because she didn't have walk-in traffic, and had lost a lot of business during everybody was in quarantine. But anyway, I still do paintings. I'm started back to my exercise classes. I'm active in my church. I do a lot of volunteer, got a lot of friends, go out to lunch a lot. Retired 11 years ago, and I worked till I was 72. And so since then, I've stayed busy.
So what was it like living through the pandemic for you guys? So if you were telling your great-great-grandchildren about the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, what would you tell them?
Well, it didn't bother me that much to wear a mask. If it was required, that was okay with me. And I did. Religiously, I wore it when I'd go out and go into places. So it never really did bother me one way or the other. The only thing was that a lot of places was being shut down, restaurants and things like that. But it's something, and like I say, I live with it.
It was very uncomfortable for me because I'd been very active up to that point and had to stop, shopping for groceries. My youngest daughter, Kelly, up until the point she had foot surgery, do my grocery shopping. And then I had to call and have it delivered. All of my friends were in quarantine. I'm in quarantine, couldn't go out. It was pretty miserable. And by doing the paintings, that was my therapy. By being able to paint a couple hours a day, it occupied me because I don't like watching TV during the day. I don't, like talking on the phone all day. So I was outside. I was doing stuff. I was going places. So it was. I've been a judge on the Houston Livestock Show for 29 years. I had to give that up because we used to go to the schools and judge the kids' art. So I just had to give up a lot. I had to give up going to church. Just being with my friends. It was pretty devastating to me.